Oh, you guys, it's time to answer the age-old question that nobody asked. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, you guys, I'm here to tell you guys a little bit about myself, who I am, what this channel is about, what I want to do with this channel, the whole purpose of it. My name is David Morales, as you could tell by the channel. It's my name, David Morales. I'm 22 years old. I'm a natural bodybuilder. Um, I've been bodybuilding for about 4 years now. 4 years. You could say 2 years. I would say 2 years. I've been in the gym 4 years total. My first 2 years, kind of just messing around. Um, learning the ropes, just playing around and figuring everything out. How to go about training, how to go about my nutrition. And after about two solid years, I figured out, what I was doing. And that's when I was really able to lock in. And those last these last 2 years, is where I've made the most growth, surprisingly. Even though, my first 2 years is where I had the most potential to make the most growth. I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm one of two children. I have an older sister. She's about 5 years older than me. I'm from what I would call a small city, Carrollton, Texas. It's like a suburb, a sub city of Dallas, the DFW. So I'm from Texas, right, you guys? Small city, Carrollton, Texas. Growing up, I didn't have the best childhood. I didn't have the best life, right? I had both of my parents, my mom and my dad. Um, Without going too much into detail, they didn't have the healthiest relationship when I was growing up. Wasn't the best household to grow up in. I didn't have a lot of, or really any guidance, I'd say. So, throughout my youth, most of it, I was kind of lost. I didn't have a set path. I didn't really have any goals, any plan for my life until around the time, I was 17. I got in the gym, right? 17, I got in the gym. I was in the gym, still living my life, kind of just coasting by, um, working regular 9 to 5 jobs. I was doing degenerate stuff like smoking weed, drinking every weekend, going to parties, trying to sleep with random chicks, that I didn't really care for or even like. It took me until I was about 19 to take a step back and look at my life, and hold myself accountable and take full responsibility for everything that I had I had done, all the choices I had made that got me to where I was at in a point in my life that I wasn't satisfied with, and I didn't feel proud of. And I knew I had to make a change, I knew I had to make a change. I knew I had to do something with my life. I used to smoke a quarter pound of weed a week, you guys. I used to smoke every night, every day, multiple times a day. There wasn't a time of day that I wasn't high, you guys. And once I finally got sober, I couldn't outrun my problems anymore. You guys, I couldn't I couldn't outrun my problems. I didn't know it then, at the time, in the midst of it, but afterwards I realized, uh, that was my way to cope. That was my way to cope, and once I got sober, I just couldn't. I couldn't cope how I used to. I couldn't run away from my problems. I had to face everything, and everything. My whole perception, everything I was and I believed in, like my sense of self shattered, and it was a good thing. It was a it was a scary point in time in my life, but it was something that I had to go through, something that had to happen to me, something that I had to experience, and it all happened for the betterment of myself. So, right, I got sober. I took a look at my life, I took a look at myself from an outside point of view, and I realized I had lived, up until that moment, and even at that time, I was on a path of destruction of myself. I I realized, that I didn't value myself, I didn't respect myself, I didn't love myself how I should. All the things I was doing, smoking weed every night, going to drink every night with my boys at the time, sleeping with random chicks. That was all shit that um, someone who values their life and themselves doesn't do. So, once I got sober, I had to make a choice, and I made the decision to go, all in on bodybuilding. I realized that was what I was passionate about. That's what was in my heart. That's what I felt, and I knew I was good at, and I knew it was something I should chase. And ever since then, that's what I've been doing. For a long time, I was living, as a bodybuilder, the way I knew I needed to live to get where I wanted to be the person I want to be, or that I wanted to be, really the person that I am now. But through that, I was able to I was able to develop and instill traits in myself like discipline, consistency. Um, I was able to build this like self-respect and self-love for myself, and I was able to teach myself delayed gratification. And for a long time, I didn't show any of what I do to the world. It was just me doing the things that I do. But now I'm trying to show you guys, through these videos that I'm making, the process, the shit that I do, the shit that I've been doing. I know a lot of you guys are doing the same shit. You might have felt the way I did before in the past, right? You might feel that way right now. some of you guys are going to feel that way in the future if you're younger. You know, it might not make sense to a lot of people. Um, really, before if I was, witnessing the things that I'm living now, that I'm going through now, the life I live now, the thoughts that I have now, the beliefs that I have now, my past self wouldn't even believe or understand them myself. But I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Personally, I believe in Christ. I'm not trying to push my beliefs onto anybody, but I feel that through through bodybuilding, through the gym, through the discipline, through the work that I put in through the gym, and at the same time through the gym into myself, all the development I did internally, I feel like bodybuilding saved my life. Like God helped me to save my own life through bodybuilding. And I know it sounds kind of dramatic to say that, but I truly 100% in my heart believe that. And I I can confidently say that bodybuilding, is my passion. It's what I live and I breathe, I'm in love with it. It's what I wake up thinking about. It's what I think about throughout the day. It's what I go to sleep thinking about, Not just for vanity, not just to sorry, it's cold as fuck out here. Not just to improve, how I look physically, or, to feed my ego, to feel better than other people. Because some people, believe it or not, that's why they do it. And I really can't understand that 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 mindset, or that train of thought. I really can't understand it, but I know that's how some people operate, but that's besides the point. You know, this is something that I'm talented at, I'm passionate about. This is my passion. This is, you know, what I live for, what I live to do, what gives me life. I live to do it, and at the same time, it gives me life. And I hope you guys understand what I mean when I say that. Even if it's not in the same context, because obviously not everyone is a bodybuilder. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you do film, you do photography. Maybe you're a writer. But if you have something you're passionate about, something that you love, something that you wish you could do, forever, like in all your time, something that you do, just for the sake of it, because you enjoy it, you'll understand what I'm saying. I hope you guys have something to, you know, hold that sentiment to, even if it's not bodybuilding or the gym like it is for me. I can only speak for myself, But bodybuilding is what I love, you guys. It's my passion. It's my. It might not make sense, but I can say it's my dream, And I don't know exactly what I mean when I say that, I don't know if I'm made to be a competitive bodybuilder, or if I'm made to, just make these YouTube videos and showcase my journey to you guys. I don't know if I'm made to start a supplement company. I don't know if I'm made to coach people, to just help people get into better shape and take care of themselves, and prioritize their health and learn how to do so. I did do some personal training in the past. I was a personal trainer for almost a year. Almost a year. I did enjoy helping people. I helped a handful of people. I did. You know, I'm proud to say I can say it confidently. I helped a handful of people, and I saw the changes, not just within their bodies, that it helped them make, but I saw the changes they made internally. Just by being around me and having my support and having me believe in them. Because all they needed was a little push and someone to believe in them and someone to guide them just a little bit. They already knew what they needed to do. It's not rocket science. That you should eat clean food and exercise. They already knew that, but having me to push them, to show them that they're capable of more than they believe, and that they could always train harder, or that bettering yourself happens one step at a time. It's not drastic, and you don't make all the changes at once. You make small increments of changes. You make small wins over and over again, and they add up. But I feel like I'm going on a tangent here. The whole point of what I'm trying to say here is this is my passion. You guys, this is what's in my heart. This is what I believe God put in my heart, or God allowed me to find, or God allowed to find me, however you want to look at it. And it's my responsibility to God, to honor God, to honor myself, to show you guys everything, to show you guys me, to show you guys what I do, what I've been doing, without a camera, without an audience, without anybody watching me. I've been doing the same things, and it's time for me to share it with the world, to share with the world what God blessed me with, what the talents He gave me, the passion He allowed me to find or instilled in my heart, to share what God did for me. In a way, this is, again, I'm not trying to push my beliefs onto anybody, but I'm not going to hide what I believe in, either. So, in a way, this is sort of my testimony. But at the end of the day, I'm just here to show you guys the process of me, the process of my betterment, the process of my journey, because I'm not just on a journey of, bodybuilding and going to the gym and training and eating, like a bodybuilder. I'm on a journey of growing as a man. I'm only 22. I'm only 22. I'm still a young man, but the amount of work that I've done on myself has, without trying to say I'm better than anyone, allowed me to surpass. I would, I honestly say, 90% of people in my age, 20, 18 to 30, you know. And it's not because I'm better than anyone. It's simply because of the choices that I made, I used to be, like I said, a degenerate. I used to live in a way that I look back now and I'm not proud of, and I can see was destructive, and I can see was not the right path. But I held myself accountable, right, you guys? My thoughts are kind of all over the place, I feel like, but I'm just speaking to the heart to you guys. Whatever is on my mind, I'm saying it. So that's why it might seem like I'm all over the place. But yeah, guys, I mean, this channel is going to be about sharing my journey, as a bodybuilder. It's going to be showing you guys day in and day out of training, in chronological order, not a session missed. Basically, since I've started making these videos, I'm recording every session, trying to show you guys the whole journey, the whole process, good days, bad days, days I feel like shit, days I feel great. I'm trying to show you guys everything, I'm trying to be authentic, I'm trying to be real. I want you guys to be able to relate to me. I want you guys to see that if I can do it, you can do it. And I want you guys to also see, my journey as a person, as a man, as me, myself, David Morales. I want you guys to be able to watch me as I grow. I'm always striving to grow. If you're not if you're not growing, what are you doing? You should always be growing as a person. And it's not to say that something is wrong with you or something has to be wrong with you, or something is wrong with where you're at, but I believe, as a man, as a person, but as a man especially, I'm a man, so I'm speaking to all my men out there. You should always be striving to be better. You should strive to be a leader. You should strive to be someone that a younger man can look up to. If you want to have kids, maybe you don't, but regardless, you should be someone at the very least that could lead your younger self, and that your younger self would be proud of. That's what I always strive to be. I always strive to make my younger self proud. I, excuse me, I'm striving to be, the man that could have been the role model, the leader that my younger self needed. And I've came a long way, you guys. I've came a long way. I can honestly say that, and you know, I'm proud to say that. But the work is never done. I'm never satisfied. I'm never satisfied, but I am proud of my accomplishments, right? And my work. I'm not discrediting myself, but there's always more work to do. So yeah, you guys, I just want to let you guys know a little bit about me. Um, Try to be authentic, real with you guys, let you guys in on a little bit of who I am, my thoughts, like, the real me, the real David Morales. Not just me training, me, doing a workout, me eating a meal. At the end of the day, I'm a person, you guys, and so are you guys, you know, and we all have stuff about us that makes us unique, or you shouldn't strive. You shouldn't want to be like everyone else. You should just be yourself. And that's something that I wasn't always practicing myself. I wasn't always like myself, comfortable in my own skin. For a long time, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I am. I didn't know myself. It took me time to get to know myself and learn the things that I like. Learn the things that I'm passionate about. Learn who I am and who I want to be. And I feel like I've come a long way doing that, but I'm still, as time goes by, as each and every day passes, I'm still learning more about myself and who I am, good and bad, and who I want to be, in the future, tomorrow, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year. It's freezing cold. Look, can you guys see my breath? It's freezing cold, man. It's like 30 something degrees out here. I think it's like 6 a.m. January 19th, 2026. 2026, you guys. Monday, 6 a.m. But like I said, you guys, I spend a lot of time, figuring out who I am, who I want to be, who I really am, not just who I who I was, before I knew who I was, if that makes sense. Don't let that go over your head. I had to take time to nurture myself and develop myself, from a clean slate, you know. I completely reshaped my life, you guys. I isolated myself. I stopped hanging out with all of my old childhood friends. And if any of you guys are watching this, it's no hate to you guys. It's no hate. It's all love. I wish all you guys the best, truly, because first and foremost, I wish the best for myself. So that's why I can do that, out of my heart and say that confidently and mean it. It's all love, but I had to envision the life that I want. I had to envision it. I had to allow myself, to envision it, to dream, to form my dreams, to try to figure out the path that I want my life to go in, And I had to and I have to, you know, like past tense and current tense. I have to I have to align myself, I have to align myself with the things that are going to get me there, And like I said, it's no hate, it's no bad blood, but anybody or anything that isn't going to help me align or that doesn't align with the life that I want to live and the man that I want to be, I had to let go of. So yeah, I'm making this video, you guys. I know one day I'm gonna be able to look back on this. You know, I already have it set in my mind. You know that I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to be consistent with these videos. Be consistent in showing you guys the journey. Each and every one of you guys. If you've ever watched one of my videos, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for whoever you are. I'm thankful. It might not be much, but the fact you guys took the time to tune into my channel, and tune into my work and what I'm doing, I'm thankful for that. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you if you're watching this. Subscribe to the channel, man. But like I was saying, I'm here to show you guys who I am, I'm not trying to be seen by the world. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not I'm not chasing, validation or attention, but there's no point in me hiding anymore, This is who I am, you know. This is me. I am who I am, you know. I just feel like it's time I show myself to the world, you know. I allow myself to be seen, you know. Allow yourself to be seen, man. Be yourself. People are always going to judge you, you know. People are always going to judge you. People are always going to have something to say about you, good or bad. Someone is always going to think something about you before they even get to know you, you know, before a word leaves your mouth, before you ever speak to them. People are always going to judge you, you know, regardless of how you act or who you are. So just be yourself, you guys. I'm David Morales. This is me, you know. I'm a bodybuilder, a natural bodybuilder. I'm 22 years old, and I'm chasing the dream, you guys. I'm chasing the dream. You know, I'm forging my own path. I've already tried to walk paths that were already built, you know. I worked I worked multiple 9 to 5s, you know. I worked warehouse jobs. I worked at gyms. I was a personal trainer. I already tried so many avenues, you guys. And you know, in the end, when I was alone, I came to the conclusion that it's time that I build my own, you know. It's time I go onto a uncharted path and I build my own, you know. I find my own and I build my own at the same time because I'm finding a path that isn't even built yet. You know, I'm building it as I find it. Don't let that go over your head, you guys. I hope you guys do the same. I don't think I have much else to say, you guys. That's pretty much all the channel's gonna be about, you know? I'm just here to showcase myself, you know, show my process, show myself, you know, let you guys see who I am and what I do, whether you like it or not, you know. I don't care who likes it or who doesn't, you know. But whoever does, you're my people, you know. If you don't, that's cool too, you know. I am who I am. This is who I am. I'm gonna be who I am. If I can entertain someone, you know, if I can motivate